Hey, what's up, everybody? How XRP can get to $8 to $10, maybe even higher towards 15, maybe even 20, or even 27. How is that even possible when we're only at $3? Well, let's take a look. So, at the end of the day, the chart tells us a lot of stuff, but it doesn't tell you exactly how it's going to do it, right? So, for example, we are in what I call a massive base. This base is very similar to the one we had back in the day, 2015, 2016, right? And you can see, right, all of these points from there to there to there to there to there, right, to there to here, right? Going up, going up. They're very symmetrical in their nature, right? So basically, it's a fractal of what this was back over here. You can see all the points. And where we're at right now, right, you could see a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation sideways, and then we're beginning to blast off, and then we're consolidating. So that's similar to what's going on over right now, right? We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off, and now it's consolidating just like it was over here. What happens when it's done consolidating? Well, you can see we have a pretty big pump that comes out of it. And if I take a bars pattern and I simply bring it over here and we look at this thing, right, you could see it's somewhat similar to what happened over here, right? So this to me looks like we're getting ready to break out, right? There's a couple ways that this can play. Now, this fractal, look at this fractal. It's going all the way up to $25. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to go up $25, right? But you could see the length of the fractal here, right? And the length of this. So let's take that off. That's just one little tiny thing. What else? What else? Well, again, we're basically right in this spot right here, and if we're expecting a pump, how high did this thing pump? Well, if I take a retrace, you could see it totally obliterated even the 4.236. So if I go to log scale, we could see it hitting the 2618 almost perfectly. Actually, it went above that. So if we go back, considering this is our range, and we take this and just put it right over here, and we'll resize it from the top here, looks pretty decent. And if we go up to the 2618, well, that brings us to $11.37. Let me make sure that is exactly where I want it. That's good enough. Yeah, so we're looking at, I would just say between $11 and $12, according to what we just looked at, right? There's other metrics you can look at, but based off of this was a 2618 extension, right? So if we had a 2618 extension, there you go. That's almost, I'd say between $10 and $12 would be more conservative. So there's two things right there saying we should go higher than, say, $5, right? Alessio, great guy. I think he's cool, but he put an XRP video out and he basically had nothing to say about it, and it's kind of weird. It's like, well, why would you talk about it? And then he goes, well, I hate XRP, but I know people like it. And it's like, well, if you don't like it, why are you covering it? because he says people like it, right? And then he goes, the XRP community gets nasty in the comments, and I don't like that, and it's like, well, why even do it then? It's kind of weird. And then he says those XRP guys, it's not healthy to have a relationship with XRP. It's very unhealthy, and I agree. That is, you should not be married to any one asset. But he just said he hated XRP. If I love XRP, that's a relationship, positive. If I hate XRP, that is also a relationship. It's a negative relationship. I hate XRP, right? So I don't know what he's saying. And then he had this guy named Charlie on, and he didn't know anything either. He's a stock market guy, so he doesn't know exactly how crypto moves or anything. So basically, he had no comment on XRP. And it's just very strange. And it's like, well, if you don't know what's happening with it, why, because they were basically looking at the chart like this. I'm going to put it exactly how they had it. Log scale, regular scale, just like that. So when you look at this is exactly how they had it. Well, don't you see you have a wave? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't it look like we're getting that fifth wave? Doesn't it look like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe a 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're about to go? Or if you look at it from a flat, you have 3 down, you have 3 up, and you could get 3 back down before going up. I mean, but even if you didn't recognize that, what you could do is simply zoom out, right? And put it off this ugly scale and put it on the correct scale, which is log scale, because when you're looking at crypto, it has to be log, because it's the more volatile an asset is. What's the most volatile asset in the world? Crypto. So what do you think log scale was invented for? Major volatility, right? So you could capture all the wave definition predicated on the percentage level, right? Notice this wave is massive, but when you look at this wave, it's a lot smaller, right? Because as you go up, it gets harder to go up, right? So, but if I put this on regular, now this is super tiny and this is massive, right? Because this scale bases it off the dollar amount, right? Because we're going up higher in dollar terms, versus log scale, it's more so percentages. Basically, it takes this, right? So like, let's say I went up from here, and I go up just a little bit. That's 600%, and you can see how big this line is. Well, if I take that same size, and I'll try my best to do that, and I'll do this, right? You can see that same size is roughly in that same percentage level, right? So it's a lot better way to interpret the chart, if you ask me. So anyway, but I like Alessio. He's great. I mean, I think he's awesome. And I'm just confused about his video. That's all. I'm just confused. Anyways, anyone who covers XRP and they don't like it, I have respect. But I don't think he doesn't like XRP. I think he is taking his anger and frustration out on XRP because some of the XRP community comments were not so nice. And instead of being mad at that, he's mad at the asset. And I think it's a little bit awkward. I think it's a little bit weird. Anyways. So looking at this as a massive zoomed out scale, we can see we have basically come up to this resistance level, right? Similar to back over here. But you could see this had broken out, but this has not broken out. So does that mean it's weaker? No, that means it's basically, if you look at this as 10,000 pounds It's heavy. It's very heavy to lift. This over here is maybe a few 100 pounds, very light. So you can bust through it very easily, right? It's like having, a bulletproof vest back in the 80s versus having a bulletproof vest nowadays, right? It's harder. It's gonna stop that bullet a lot better. So, anyways, bad example, but let's take everything off the screen, and now let's look at it from another perspective. Another perspective, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a report on why it's bullish. And the more reasons, the better. So we're trying to get as many reasons, what we call confluence, to show what that it's the bullish case, which is, $10 or so. So if that's the case, then prove it to me. Prove why is it going there? We just did the rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off, rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. We got that. Another reason why it's very bullish, in my opinion, is because in doing so, it also created a triangle. A, B, C, D, and E. And you can see that triangle right there. Right? Very similar to what happened over here, except this one is way bigger. A, B, C, D, and E. And you can see very clearly that this is literally the same thing. So I don't know why nobody covers this. They're too infatuated over the small time. They're just looking at this wave. You gotta zoom out to make it make sense, right? But anyways, there you go. That's another reason. I don't know how many reasons that is, but that's another reason, right? So essentially, this triangle, if we take from A and we go all the way up to the top of that line, and then we take this line, and it's not going to be super accurate, but if I take this line and I put it right there, now you could do two things. You could take the line and put it on the breakout level, or you could take the line and put it at the bottom here. And then I'm going to take the line and I'm going to raise it all the way up. And that equals what? $7.78. Okay, that's one way. Now I'll do the same thing again. Take the line. But this time, you could see this right here was C19. Very dramatic sell, right? So it might give us a little bit of a distortion. So if I start the line right here, there's a lot more confluence right here. So I'm going to take the line, but instead of going, from the bottom, I'm going to start it from the top. So we're going to take this starting right around there. We're going to go up, and then we're going to take this, and we're going to put it on top of the wave. Okay, that's number 2. And that comes in at what? $11.55. Okay, so that's our target area. So then I'm going to take one more line and I'm going to do it massively, as big as I can get it, from the very bottom to the top. There we go. I'm going to take it right. You could take it from the top, take it from the bottom, but we're going to do it from the top here, and I'm going to go up just like that. So boom, look at that. So we have two, one at $7.78, one at $11.55, and one at $16. So this is just an area. This is just an area, a target zone, that's a potential, right? Now, is there any confluence to that target? Well, yeah, we just had the, you know, the 2618 extension we looked at. Remember back over here, we looked at this. Whoops, that's not the right one. Let's take this one right here, and we'll go up, and you can see that this was a 2618 extension right there, right? So that's exactly, so I'll take this, I'll bring it over here, and let's put this right there, and then take that right there. Okay, well, would you look at that? Wow, that's interesting. So the 2618 is literally right in the middle of our range, like literally on the dot. That's pretty impressive. So that was the level we just measured. Remember, from the blue line to the top, right? And then we took it from the top here, and look at that. It matches up perfectly. So there you go. That's what you call confluence, right? So how many things did we just go over? Quite a bit. And is there any more? Yeah, there is. So what else is there to look at? So let's get rid of that. And then we're going to look at the smaller time frames. We're going to look at the closer waves here and get a little bit a better target. But now we can get rid of the triangle, because we don't need that anymore, because we just covered it. So what about just a standard retrace, right? First of all, this is one of the biggest bases in crypto history, right? We've never seen a crypto go sideways for 7.5 years. We don't know what the effects are going to be. This is all new. This is like being in the stock market in the early or the late 1800s. You don't know what's going to happen, because this is all a new experience, right? But we kind of do. You know, again, Bitcoin, you can say, well, what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin never did anything like this. Look at this. Look at this. This is literally a box. You can say, well, why is that good? Because look at this. This was a box. How did we get this monster move? How did we get it? What caused that monster move? Well, you can see we were in a box. We were in a triangle, right? Same thing over here. So it goes sideways forever. It levels up. It goes sideways forever. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to eventually level up. And why would it not level up? You're getting an XRP ETF. You're getting a Ripple's going to have an IPO. You got regulation. You got more regulation coming. We're the crypto capital of the world now, right? So we're going to see more utility. We're going to see more companies. And I mean, it's just like a no-brainer. This is easy money here. I mean, if you're trading it, it's different. But if you're an investor and you're just working your job, living your life, making your paychecks, putting in a certain amount each week or each month or whatever, and then look back 5 years, you're going to be like, wow, I'm such a genius, right? So, and that's, you know, Trump said that he could pay off the national debt. Just give him a little crypto check, right? He didn't say Bitcoin, by the way. He said crypto. So how would you give him a crypto check? Well, if XRP went up to X amount, right? You could say 50, 100, maybe even $1,000. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But some ridiculous number. And then he could say, well, we can just use our stockpile, our XRP stockpile, and that'll pay off the national debt. Boom, done. I don't know if that's going to play out, but it's interesting to think about. So, but if we just take a standard retrace, remember, here's our zone here. This is our level, right? That we're going to mark all of our targets. So let's see if there's any confluence over here. Now, would you look at that? There is. So this is log scale, though. Fib levels. But look at this. Look at, You see the 1.272 and the 1.414 all within the same range, same level. Now, you have the 1618 here at $25, but you really should be looking at the market cap chart because this chart doesn't account for all the inflation. So for example, back right here, we didn't have as much XRP as we do over here, right? So back at this peak, there was, I don't know, I have no idea, maybe 30 billion XRP. Now we're almost at 60 billion XRP. So we have way more XRP in circulation. So that's why it's so much harder for the price to move up, because the market cap gets bigger. That puts more stress. It's harder to move the market, number one. Number two, you have more coins in circulation, which makes it even harder, right? So, but regardless, you have a massive, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but essentially, that's the target. So if we go and we put this on regular scale, well, would you look at that? The 2618 and the 4.236, it's all within the same region, right? Between that $8 and say $15 area. And that's a pretty big level. So how do you deal with a level like that? How do you know when to sell? Well, that's why you have dollar cost averaging. So for example, we'll talk about this more in the members video, but there's different ways you can do it. For example, you could say the 2618, we hit that, I'll let go 10%, right? If we hit, the 3 or the 2.272, I'll let 20% go, right? We hit up here, I'll let 30% go, right? Or you could do like 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, right? Or whatever, right? You're not trying to get the exact top. You're trying to maximize efficiency by averaging out of the market. So for example, how many times have you bought crypto? I would imagine quite a few times, right? So did you buy all the XRP at once? Probably not. You probably bought a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Well, that's exactly what you want to do on the way out. So, but anyways, how many things is that now? That's got to be a lot of reasons and confluences here for this target, for this range, right? Because the whole thing is are we going to break out? Are we going to break out and get to target, right? Is that even going to happen? And I believe without a doubt, yes, it will happen. Now, does that happen today? Does that happen this year? Well, that's another discussion, but we will get into it once we look at these waves, because we're going to look at the fib levels of this and see if there's any confluence with our range, our target range. So the next thing would be, well, is there anything else in this chart that says it's super bullish? Yes. Yes, there is. And what would that be? Well, if you look at this right here, and let's go up a little bit here. All right, so this is the 2-week chart, and you can see here is the 2-week close right there. I'm going to put it a little bit higher right there. There's the 2-week close. And you can see we pinpoint nailed it on the retrace. So this $2 level is a very critical level. And what has happened? Well, you can see we came all the way up. We hit the resistance. This is very important. What happened next is we came all the way down, but we created a base down in here. You can see the base. And then we made a U shape, a cup. And we cupped into the resistance. So we hit the resistance, we couldn't do it. We cupped into the resistance, we still couldn't do it. We came back down, we built another base. This is a U with a base. This is another U with a much bigger base. And what did that print? What could you see? Well, I don't know about you,
but I see a massive cup and handle, but I also see a W. That is a W right there, right? You can also see an ascending triangle. You can see the ascending triangle, right? You can see a low, a higher low, right? But the important thing is you're cupping into the resistance. You're cupping into the rather than if the price was up here, you were cupping down into support. You were cupping down into support. That would mean bad, right? That would be bad. So that's another reason why we're very bullish on XRP. So what else? What other reason are we bullish? Well, another massive reason is if you look at, for example, Theta or any coin, it doesn't matter. Take any coin. It could be Theta, it could be ADA, it could be SHIB, it could be AVAX, it could be, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot. Ethereum. You pick it. It doesn't matter. But all of those coins went on massive bull runs in 2021, right? Let's just look at ADA. Okay, so here's 2020 and 2021. Look at this. We went on a massive bull run. Look how massive that is. I mean, this was huge. This went up freaking almost 20,000%. Okay? 20,000%. Like, well, more like 15. But it's insane. So going up that amount, right? Actually, 18,000 pretty much. That's huge, right? So does that? But if you look at ADA right here, it looks rather weak. It looks a little bit weak, whereas XRP is up here. Why? Because ADA went on a massive bull run. But what about XRP? XRP did not. XRP just went into a little retrace. If you don't believe me, look at the percentage. The percentage is nothing, and I'll do the same percentage. It was only so ADA was 17,000, 18,000%. Okay, XRP is only 1,500% in the same amount of time. So you could say, well, that's bad. No, that's good. Why is it good? Because XRP had more time to rest, right? If two guys are running a marathon and one rested 2 weeks and the other one rested 2 hours, who do you think's going to win? Who do you think got a better odd? Right? Someone who's really rested and ready, or someone who's burnt out, right? You can say, well, that was a long time ago. Well, not according to price. Price takes a long time because emotions take a while. Emotions have to play out. That's what this chart is. It's an emotional chart. So the fact that XRP did not go on a bull run, right? When you had like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Avalanche, Solana, Dogecoin, all the coins, they went all out and they partied hard. They all went out and they all had a good time and they all got wasted. Now they're all hung over. But XRP didn't go out. XRP stayed home, right? This is its little home right here. It's big home. It's mansion, actually. It stayed in its mansion. Just chilling here, right? Playing video games, chilling out, relaxing, getting a massage, reading books, going to the gym. And now it's like, hey, I just had a freaking fruit smoothie. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to rock. And then you look at coins like, we'll say Filecoin here. Filecoin, massive, massive rally. But look at Filecoin. Since it had such a massive rally, now it's all hung over. It looks sad and it looks depressed. Right? It looks like it's struggling because look what it did. It did something insane. I mean, we went up literally almost 10,000%. So that ADA went up 18 times more than XRP. Filecoin went up 10 times more than XRP, basically. Okay, so that means it requires more time to fix, right? And that's another reason why XRP didn't break out because it too went on a massive bull run. So it needed all of this time to rest, right? You can say, oh, the SEC lawsuit had to do with it. Well, maybe. I think it still would have struggled, just because the way it looks, right? The way it was coming up. It was coming up a little bit corrective in here. But we had the SEC crash, but it still went up, and then it came around. So, XRP went up, 60,000%, way more than all of those coins. But it's had 7.5 years to chill out. It's had a long time to relax. Okay? That's why XRP is my biggest holding. That because it has more structure than ADA. Look at ADA, right? You have a rise, you have a crash, you have whatever that is, and that's it. But look at XRP. Look what you have here. You have a rise, you have a crash, you have a retrace. I can see it. We came back down. Look at that. We came back down in 3 waves, right? We went up in 3. We came down in 3. We went down in 3, up in 3, down in 3, up in 3, down in 3. So we've been 3 waving basically for the last 7 years. About to be 8 years soon. So there's so much more structure, right? If you look at a skyscraper, would you get inside of a skyscraper knowing it didn't have the same structure as this one, right? I mean, it has so much more. You have a support beam there. You have a support beam there. You have a support beam there. You have concrete and steel right in here. I mean, it's so much stronger. You got to look at it like a structure, like you're building Legos. If you're going to build Legos and this is going to go up and you're going to build a big tower, you're going to need structure down here to support that weight, right? All right. So that's why it's unbelievably, in my opinion, one of the best looking charts. Now, as far as percentages go, you don't really have a lot of percentages left because you've already expended half of your arsenal just getting back to the top. So far we've gone up almost 900%. So we're basically 150% away from getting a 10x already, a 10x, right? Which is what makes the other charts like ADA a little bit more appealing at sometimes because we don't know how this could go up, right? This could blast off and break the high here. And just that little move alone could give us a big move up. I mean, it could give us 7, 8, up to 10x. Whereas XRP, you're looking at from our little lines here, from where we are right now, I mean, you're only looking at 160 to 300, maybe 400%. So it's really not a lot. But here's the thing. This opens up the door for speculation. Well, what if Ripple is being used by the Treasury or used to tokenize assets? Because there's no company in the world positioned like Ripple. There just isn't, right? We have an American first president. He believes in America first, right? So who's the number one American crypto in America? It's Ripple. It's XRP, right? Bitcoin's not American. Ethereum is not American, right? Which is weird. Like, if I'm Trump, I would tweet out about XRP. I'd say, just got off the phone with Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, right? The number one blockchain company in the United States, right? Well, you could say Coinbase, but that's more of an exchange. Or you could say Circle, right? But nah, it's Ripple, right? And their weapon is XRP. So, again, XRP is the number one American crypto by far. So, if we're implementing America First policies, what do you think is going to happen? That's why when Trump got elected, you saw HBAR and ADA and XRP and XLM and Algo, the American ones go up pretty big. especially the ISO 202, right? Those compliant tokens. Anyways, let's look more at the price here. So what else had been going on? So if you look closely, you could see we had 3 waves up and we had 3 waves down, which caused what? A 5-wave move up. That's what we should expect. 3, 3, 5. So if that's the case, do we have 5 waves? No, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like we're in the middle of wave 5, and we should get wave 5 very soon. So if that's the case, then what would be the measurement of that? Well, I could take a trend-based fib extension from the bottom of 1 to the top of 3 to the bottom of 4, and I can look and I can see, is there any confluence in here? Well, yeah. I mean, you know, the 1618 is a little bit shy, but you have the 2618, you know, between that $8 and $9. Well, really, there's 3 levels. You know, you have the $4 to $7 or $4 to $6 area. You have like the $7 to $9 area, and then you have the $10 to $15 area. So you could say 10%, 20%, right? 25% or whatever. And then leave the rest for a Hail Mary, right? So there's another piece of confluence that we should go up. Now, what if we go down? What if we start going down? Well, then that means we have to focus on the now, right? The now. Because even if we did go down, it wouldn't change anything, right? If this goes down, it's not going to change a 7.5-year chart, right? What it's going to do is it's going to change the wave structure of the primary wave. See, that's what people don't get, really. So what is that structure? Well, if we zoom in, you can clearly see what I'm about to talk about. So again, we're looking for 5 waves. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're getting 5. Okay, perfect. So if we look at this correction here, is it finished? Well, it could be finished, and I believe it is finished. And that means what? Well, we have their 3rd wave, and the 3rd wave ended here, and we have an A, B, C. This is an expanded flat. If you look at total 3 or the rest of the market, it did not break this high. That's why it's a flat, right? So we had 3 waves down, and now we have like a 1, 2, maybe another 1, 2, and we're revving up the engine to break out and go, right? Because this was wave 3, this is wave 4, and we're about to go to wave 5. So a very clear way to look at it, right? So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Either way, we should expect a 5-wave move. So, but what if we go down? Like I said, what if we start going down? Then what would that be? Well, that means it would most likely be a more complex correction. Meaning what? Meaning we still have 3 waves down, but instead of this being a 1, 2, 1, 2, or we're moving up, it would actually be what? 3 waves down, 3 waves up. We have 3 waves up. So what then? Well, we only have 2 waves. We have 1 wave down, we have 1 wave up, but we still need 3. So we need 1 more. So that means if we go down, it would be 3 waves down. And what that would do is it would create a beautiful base. You touch the bottom, you touch the top, you touch the bottom and the middle, and then you fly. So essentially, that would be W, X, and then you would have Y. And then you would fly. Something like that. Right? And if we zoom all the way out, that's what it would look like. And if you look at it, it looks perfect. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Right? You could see your little base hit the high. You got a little bit of a base, And this base is in a very interesting level, because you can see, if I take it right there, right? So basically, you take the close and the peak and then the wick, and you can see it created this big box. Well, guess what? That box is where we're at. And why are we in this box for so long? Because it's never tested these waters, right? It's like you go to Scotland for the first time. Are you just going to go there for an hour? No, you're going to go there for a little while, especially if you're coming from the United States. You're going to be there for a little while to see the place, right? You're going to, so XRP just basically crossed the border, and it's inside this new country, and it's checking out the sites before it continues its flight north to the North Pole or to the moon, right? So then we could see it being something like this, where you could say this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a diag, 1, and then you had 2, and then you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this whole wave is actually only wave 3. And this comes into the super cycle discussion, because if we have a super cycle, then we wouldn't necessarily have, I mean, we would have a mid-cycle correction. It would probably be something about, it'd probably be that long, right? It'd probably take a long time. But essentially what it would be is 1, 2, 3, and then we would flag out in here for a while, for a long time, maybe even a year and a half, and then go up for our wave 5. Up probably past $25. And it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, let me make it like that. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Right? And then we would flag out in here. It would take a long time, though. So that's 26. Well, let's say we got up here 26. Yeah, I mean, it could take a while. I don't know. That it's a super cycle, right? Basically, you would have a mid-cycle correction. Basically, this was the cycle right here. But then you have a mid-cycle correction, and then you have one more push. So, but how would that trend? And the reason why I would imagine that is because it would make sense if you translated it to a coin like SHIB, right? Or THETA, where if this coin doesn't break out when XRP breaks out, you could see, for example, you had 3 waves up or 3 waves up, 3 waves down, and then you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Well, that would give you 3. That would give you a 3-wave move. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. That would be A. Then you would come all the way up in B, and that's when XRP hits its yellow target. But then you would have your mid-cycle correction, and then that would take a long time. That would take a long time to correct, kind of like a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. So that's what I think that's what I think could play out, because if you look at all of these altcoins, a lot of them look terrible. Like, look at Filecoin, looks terrible. Look at, I mean, THETA is at basically its low here. It's like sitting on its low. So if XRP has one more wave up, how the hell is THETA going to go up here? It can't. It doesn't have enough time. Bitcoin is. So what needs to happen? Well, Bitcoin needs, or the market needs, a mid-cycle correction where you have 3 waves up, you have 3 waves down, and that's where we are right now. And then XRP goes up to $10 in that 5th wave, right? Or the 5th of the 3rd wave. So then that would equal THETA going up also in 5 waves, maybe back to its retrace level. But all you get out of that is a 3-wave move. 3-wave, that's it. So we're not going to break out. We're not going into price discovery until we have a mid-cycle correction, and then you can go out. And that could take, like I said, anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half, right? But you can say, well, that's terrible, that sucks. Well, no, because you're going to get a massive pump out of it. You're going to go from here all the way up potentially. If Theta can literally get a 10x. Literally. Because we can't deny, look at the three-wave move. You had a beautiful A, B, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a beautiful three-wave move. You're building a little bit of a Wyckoff in here. So at the bare minimum, we want to get back up here. But even more than that, we would probably want to get up here. Right? And that would be 3, 3, and 3. And then it's over. Right? And then if we look back to Bitcoin or XRP, that would put XRP right here. Right? But so then if we came down in a big 3 like Theta did, right? Then we can start going again. So, but then how does that translate to Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin would be 1, 2, right? 3, 4, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and you have a little bit more push, and then what would happen? You would have a big correction like that. Not a bear market. Now, well, it would be a bear market, but it would be more of a mid-cycle correction. I don't think it would be this big or this big. I mean, that's a full-on bear market. It would most likely be, well, I could do this. I could take a trend-based fib time extension from the bottom of this wave, and let's say we end sometime in October. Well, jeez, that's going to put you around between here and here, roughly. And then we'll get rid of that. So that is November 26th to July 2027. So imagine we pump all the way up and it's the end of the year. So we'll just say it's 2027. Well, or 2026. Well, it could take a year after we get there, a whole year to get back down to make it to that first time target. And then maybe a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more, maybe even a year and a half, something like that, where it just kind of flags out and just miserable, right? And then that's your mid-cycle correction. And then basically you have a big wave up, a big correction, and then you come back up and hit like 250, 350 or so. And then from there, that's when you have the real bear market, right? So something like, wait, that's way too big. Something like that, right? And then the bear market would probably be pretty bad, right? It'd be pretty bad, but then it would start to go again. But that's like old man territory right there. I mean, that's a long time. So that's why I don't mess with Bitcoin. I don't see any upside with Bitcoin at all. You know, unless you have millions and millions and millions of dollars, then it makes sense because it's less volatility. You're still getting a good return. But if you're like me, who doesn't have millions and millions of dollars, I need my asset to work 20 times harder. That's why Michael Saylor is in Bitcoin and I'm in XRP, right? So, but you know, it could be the revving up stage right here. This could be all a rev up for a big parabola, right? And then you have a three-wave move, and then people will call it a bear market. They're not going to call it a mid-cycle correction, even though it could be part of a super cycle, right? And then you have one more high. So it's all speculation. This is not financial advice. I could be totally dead wrong. And all of that stuff was speculation. The reality of it is, the real stuff is we should be going up, to to that target level. So if we do the same thing, right, let's take our triangle and let's do the same thing. The numbers are going to be worse, but I think we should still do it. So we're going to take our line from here all the way to the top. This is the market cap. It's going to be different. And then we're going to put it right there at the point of breakout. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it straight. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one more. Or I did two more, huh? And then I'm going to do a little bit more confluence because you have a point there, point here, and a point there. So there's a lot of confluence there at these lows. So it's more of a structurally sound low versus just a wick, right? And then I'm going to put that one right there, right? And then you can do one more, for example, and then put this one kind of like right there. Whoops, or right there. And then I'm going to take that, put that right there. Okay, so we have our three lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a percentage, and then I'm going to figure out what that percentage is on the actual chart. So the first percentage is 175%. So we'll just say 200%. And then we'll go up to, say, 300%, up to, well, let's do this one at 280%. All right, so we'll go here, and then and then we'll touch on that in a minute. But if we go up 280% from here, where does that put us? Well, that basically puts us at that same line. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So there you go. That's basically it. So it all comes down to one thing. Time. Wind moon, wind moon, wind moon. So again, does it happen now where we flag out and we go now? Or is it 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, then go? And if we got that, then we would be testing these lows again, right? You can see all of these support levels, right? So if we had to come down and test it one more time, then hey, so be it. But that would mean going like almost down below 250, right? I mean, we're at $3 and we think that's bad. Just imagine going to $2, you know? But we could literally go to $2 and still be technically bullish, right? So if we look at the monthly chart is looking pretty good. You got a little bit of a doji here. It just started though. The quarterly candle, you have 2 months left, and it looks like it's going to be the highest quarterly candle close in XRP history. So there you go. That's basically pretty much everything involving XRP. Kind of more of an XRP only video, but essentially, I just wanted to remind people, we're at a very interesting situation. All right, now let's look at the small time frames. So let's go to another chart. Let's go here, and let's look at like this smaller time frame. So if we look at the smaller time frames, we could see we're kind of like flagging out a little bit here, right? So I think it looks okay. I prefer more of a three-wave shape. This to me looks like 3 down. You have 3 up, and then you have 3 back down. So that's a WXY. That's a 3-wave move. And then this could be an impulse, a wave 1, and this could be ABC, wave 2. So our wave 1, I mean, that looks like a nice impulse. That could be A. Okay, and then we shoot up here for B, and then we pull back down for C, and then we start heading up. That's kind of what I think. Or if we zoom in more, it could be finished. It could be a 1 and then a 2, and now we're revving up, and we're gonna keep going. Versus having it be more complex and then keep going. So which one's it going to be? It's always in the retrace levels, right? You got point A, point B, and point C. So point C can break out, point C can hit the low, then break out. Depends. That's why retracement levels are very tricky. So that's pretty much it for XRP. Now, real quick though, if this is not 333, but rather it's more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, that could be A. And then we come up here, that could be B. And then we have to come all the way back down, that could be C. And that the way that would look zoomed out would be, let me actually put, let's just do this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have something like that, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go up. Okay, so then when I zoom out, that's what it looks like. And to me, it looks pretty good. Right? Sometimes you have to draw it on the chart and visualize it and say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, that doesn't make sense. Right? So we could break out now. We could break out now, or we can have a three-wave more complex move, then break out later, right? So that three-wave move there can turn into 3, 3, and then it can turn into another 3. And if that happened, then that would be 3, 3, and then 3, and then go. So this would have to get 2 times more complex for that to happen. So anyways, we'll look at Bitcoin dominance. Looks like a disaster. I love it. Look at Bitcoin dominance. You have an impulse and you have a three-way pullback. And if you flip it upside down, you have an impulse and you have a three-way pullback. So it looks like it's going to continue crashing, which is good. We want Bitcoin dominance to go to 0, or at least I do. That would be amazing. So Bitcoin dominance can just keep trailing down. All right, so what about Bitcoin itself? Well, real quick, THETA. Again, I think THETA is doing some kind of Wyckoff in here, right? We're building a range. So if we can curl out, play, and then go, that would make sense. Or worst case, a spring and then go. That would also make sense. If we zoom in, you could see it's not really a nice three-way move. It's really violent. So, you know, you got a three-way move regardless, but it's going to struggle coming back up. So I wonder if it's got to do something like that. I don't know. It's a tough one, you know, because you're inside of a range. You're literally right in. So here's the bottom of the range. Here's the top of the range. Look where you're at. You're literally in the middle. So it can kind of go either way. Now, if you go by based off wave structure, I think we are due for some upside. Unless this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which I don't know about that. It would more likely be 3. And then let's get up here first and then recalibrate. So we'll look at that later. But Bitcoin is looking okay. Yeah. So Bitcoin looking great. You have a bullish engulfing 6-hour candle, but more importantly, you have a three-way move. So boom, boom, boom. So you have a three-way move, right? Not only it's a three-way move, but you back tested the high here. So you had a three-way move, you back tested the high. So now it's all about getting going. So we'll see if that plays out. But anyways, that'll do it for this video. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, I expect SHIB to get up here. I expect a little bit more of a retrace.
So we'll see how it plays out. Remember, it's not financial advice. I could be totally wrong. These are just ideas. We're trying to figure them out. Look at Monero. It's actually coming down in a three-wave shape. So let's see how that plays out. But until then, I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.